friends. Welcome to today's episode of We Are Marketing Happy, a healthcare marketing podcast. My name is Jenny Bristow. I am the CEO and founder at Hetty and Hop. We are a full service, fully healthcare marketing agency, and our goal is to bring the joy to your healthcare marketing work. I'm here today to chat a little bit about dashboards. I'm going to call this episode Dashboards 101. Dashboarding and reporting can be extremely overwhelming to folks in the healthcare marketing space, especially for folks that come from more traditional, think like communications or PR background. Whenever they're beginning to try to show the ROI of the marketing campaigns for the first time, it can be very overwhelming. There's lots of different terminology that floats around. There's lots of different platforms and technology that you can take into consideration when you're moving into the dashboarding and reporting space. And so I want to do just a little bit of a 101 episode today and kind of give you some things to think about, hopefully set a baseline of understanding. That way, whenever you go to tackle this project yourself within your organization, you'll have a better understanding of what to look out for and the questions to ask. So let's get started. I want to start super high level and talk just a little bit about terminology. We often see terminology like dashboards and report kind of be thrown around interchangeably. And I want to start out just by giving a little bit of a definition. So, a dashboard is usually, if you think about like the dashboard on your car, it's real time. It's providing real time feedback and information about what's happening, whether it's how fast you're going or how much gas you have left in your tank. It's real information being fed to you in real time. Whereas a report is really a snapshot in time. It could be generated from the dashboard or it could be manually created using other data sources. But usually that would be, let's say, right now it is August. Let's say we're putting together a July campaign performance report that is a snapshot in time looking exactly at those date ranges and really talking about performance. Whereas a dashboard is more real time information. And so, first of all, that's high level, the difference between those two terminologies. As you're starting to think about dashboarding and reporting, first of all, don't forget about patient privacy and all the different things you need to do to potentially clean up your data feeds and analytics tools. We have lots of great episodes about that, so I'm not going to talk about that at all. We'll link to some episodes in the show notes you can go listen to. But I do want to stress that everything we're talking about today is absolutely possible to continue doing while keeping patient privacy top of mind. So you can implement all the best practices, remove all the potential PHI or even just personally identifiable information from the data feeds, and you still can get this level of granularity we're going to talk about today. So let's just assume that you're moving forward with patient privacy handled. So if you're going to start building a dashboard for the first time, our organization always recommends when we go through with our clients what we call a measurement plan. So it sounds simple, right? Like, of course, we know what we want to measure. It's a campaign. We want to measure how many clicks we get. We want to measure how many form submissions or phone calls we get. But it actually can be a lot more complex than that because that may be the first instinct about what you want to report on. But if you take a step back, and what we do with all of our clients is we say, okay, maybe that surface level information is what you want to know today, but think about at the end of the month, what do you have to report up to your leadership team? What would you love to be able to report out to your board? So it's almost a wish list of performance metrics of the information you would love to have at your fingertips to be able to showcase how well your campaigns or your work and the marketing space are doing. And so what we do is we go through and we first understand, what are the business objectives? If there's a strategic plan in place, we really like rolling up the measurement plan to that strategic plan, just so again, everybody's using the same vocabulary, same, foundation for how we're talking about success. But then we get to the conversation of we breaking it down by service line or by product offering. Do we need to break it down by location? How do you talk about success within your organization? How do you have to report back success? So really getting to that level of granularity of how we need to filter the present the information, and then what actual metrics need to be included at that level of filtering and detail. At that point, we go in and actually make sure the analytics tool we're using is set up to measure those things. For example, a call tracking software, is it actually set up on all of the correct service line pages? That's the call to action. Are there forms that should be tracked that aren't? Are there other call to actions like downloading an informative PDF about your service lines that need to be reported on, maybe that event isn't set up yet. So we make sure that really the on-site website tracking matches that measurement plan and what we're trying to accomplish. Once that's done, then we get to really the fun part where we're talking about visualization. So when you think about visualization, often we'll be talking to folks, and I've had so many clients come to me and say, "Well, I bought Domo, but it didn't work." And I totally understand that frustration because if you look at the websites of these data visualization tools, it really looks like it's plug and play and it's going to be super easy, right? But the interesting thing is that all data visualization tools are at the foundation level the same, right? They're going to visualize data in the way that you ask it to visualize data. So that measurement planning process where you're getting organized and figuring out exactly how you're going to tell that data story and how you're going to visualize it has to be done within your organization before you can get to the pretty part about actually setting up those visuals. So we love Looker as a visualization tool. We actually have used Looker way before it was used by Google or owned by Google, but there are lots of other ones. We have folks that use Tableau, Domo. It really, the list just never ends of the different tools you can use. I really like Looker if you're just getting started with data visualization and dashboarding because it's free. So you can spend your funds from a budgetary perspective on training your team, but how to use the tool or bringing in third party experts to be able to make sure everything is set up correctly versus paying just to access the tool itself. So that's the data visualization side. The other thing that I wanted to explain that I think folks kind of overlook or get confused about sometimes is how is the data coming into the visualization tool? And really, there's two different ways for this to happen. First is a straight data feed. Usually, this is through an API. Most of the tools on the back end have a way for you to really just enter your login credentials, say to Google Analytics 4 or whatever, analytics tools you're using. There'll be a variety that you'll need to connect, whether it's Google Ads, Meta, whatever. You enter that in, and then the data feeds begin connecting, and then you can make modifications about how it actually is visualized. The other way is a much more sophisticated option. So I don't recommend starting here, but is actually having a data lake and then doing back-end calculations. So you're actually pulling the data together into one super large database. So then you can actually do data connections and you can actually understand by IDs different steps of the patient or the user journey and really connect it together so you can get a bigger picture understanding about how that individual is engaging with your marketing on the front end or your organization on the back end, depending on if your analytics is really just focusing on the marketing side or your entire organization. It's much more sophisticated. So again, I wouldn't recommend that you start here if you're just starting out and getting used to showcasing performance of your campaigns and you really just want to start showing ROI, I definitely would start with the easier version. But then once you are ready, then you definitely would need to either have some pretty sophisticated talent within your internal team. So this isn't really just like a marketing person. This is more of a developer role to be able to set up that data lake. You can actually include some back-end calculations, whether it's ROI calculations, et cetera, to then be able to visualize the data in a super specific way for your needs. So hopefully that was a really helpful overview. I could talk about this for hours and hours, but I really wanted to create an episode that would be helpful for folks that are just starting to dip their toe in. So hopefully this gives you a framework if you're going to begin moving forward with it. A couple of questions that you want to keep in mind if you are working with your in-house team to develop a dashboard for the first time, or perhaps you're working with an agency that's doing it, is a couple of questions. First, what's the timeliness or refresh rate of the data? You can make you can make dashboards real time. All of our dashboards that we do for our clients are real time. So at any time, whenever you log in, it will be information up to that day. Um, but others, they update maybe every Sunday night for the week prior. It just depends on how they're building that dashboard. So always understanding what is the refresh rate or the timeliness of that data is super helpful. Understanding if it's straight data feeds or if there's any backend calculations. Understanding the data sources. With all the dashboards that we create, we actually, on the first page, it's kind of introduction to the dashboard. We list every single data source, including like the property IDs. That way, if there's ever a question about data matching or numbers not quite syncing up, we can understand exactly where the data came from and really be able to quickly understand any discrepancies. And then the final thing I would say is if you're building a dashboard, definitely do not skip that measurement plan and really challenge your team to make sure that every action you want to track within your marketing ecosystem is set up to be trackable so you can report upon it appropriately within the dashboard. And really, if you haven't yet, start thinking about things like call tracking, tracking form submissions through events, and any other sort of interaction, whether it's an online chat or whatever it is. Make sure all of those interactions are captured in a way that's measurable so you can really track out that patient or user journey on your website so you can properly optimize it. So thank you so much for tuning in today to this episode of We Are Marketing Happy, to our Dashboards 101. If you have any questions, reach out to me. I'd love to chat and answer any specific questions you have about maybe a dashboard or analytics project you're tackling within your organization. If you're running into any roadblocks or any frustrations and would just like a second point of view, we would be happy to chat with you. You can reach out to me at jenny@headyandhop.com. So until next week, please like and save this podcast so you can get our weekly updates. New episodes drop every Friday. And we'll see you next week on our next episode of We Are Marketing Happy. Cheers.